Oh. Okay. So far, I think we have covered so many different small details in this chapter. The beginning of macroeconomics, the introduction of macroeconomics, and I believe so many concepts you have learned already from last year. Okay, from GCSE, right? So, well, let's sum up what we have learned so far in this chapter. We have learned the new perspective of circular flow of income, and we have learned different methods of calculating the GDP, the three methods. Still remember what are the three methods? So how do we calculate? Yeah, so expenditure, income, and one more. Output, yes, right. And which one is with an equation? Which method is with an equation? Which method? Output? No, expenditure. Yeah, expenditure. When we talk about expenditure, so what is the equation? Very quickly. Equation is. Come on, come on. All right, yeah, C plus G plus I plus NX or X minus M. Okay, so these are all the people who will spend on goods and services in the economy. Okay, so we have learned three methods, and we have also learned how to compare different kinds of output indicators, right? Like GDP versus GDP per capita, real GDP versus nominal GDP. Okay, and also one more. What is it? We have also compare one more, GDP versus GNI. Yeah, thank you. Right. So three sets of comparisons, right, that we have learned, and we also have learned green GDP. Okay, because we know that sometimes GDP might not be accurate because of some unnecessary output that we have spent or we have produced in the economy in order to fix the environment, or the pollution, and that's why we have another calculation, green GDP, right? And when you talk about GDP, we have different limitations. Okay, so we have talked about two sets of limitation. One of them is the GDP cannot accurately calculate the true value of output. Okay, and the second one is, when you look at GDP, it might not reflect the standards of living, okay, in the society. So yeah, so far I think this is all we have learned, and this is the last part. We were up to here. Okay, last time we tried to differentiate the difference. Okay, yeah, differentiate GDP and GDP growth. Okay, so if I tell you now GDP is decreasing, so how do you describe it in economic growth? If GDP is decreasing, like here, from 2004 to 2005. So how do you describe it in economic growth? Would you describe it as decrease in GDP growth, or would you describe it as a negative GDP growth? Yeah, a negative GDP growth. Right. Yeah, yeah. So this is what you will see. Every time when you see a GDP is falling, so when you calculate the GDP growth, it is going to be a negative number. Okay? Yeah. So and that's why we are going to call it a negative GDP growth, right? Okay. Yep. And sometimes when you are calculating GDP growth, just because is still increasing, but if it is increasing in a decreasing rate, then you are going to call it a decrease in GDP growth. Okay. Yeah. So there's the concept that you have to realize. All right. So yeah. So very quickly, let's go to the next part. Yeah, the next part, which is the last part of this chapter. Okay, the last part of the chapter, of course, we are going to go back to this. Okay, yeah, looks familiar, right? Um, so when you look at this, yeah, business cycle, we all know that. We have all learned that from last year, and well, when you look at the terms, it might be a little bit different than the ones that you have learned, but they're the same. Okay, they're the same. Last year you may see something called boom. Okay, so basically that is peak. Okay, and you might see something like growth, and that is actually expansion. All right. Yep. And you see contraction, and then when it goes to the bottom, then you see trough. Okay. Well, you may heard about slump, so they are the same. Slump and trough, they are the same. Okay. In this curriculum, we try to stick with the terms here. Okay, but they are the same. The concepts that you have learned, they are the same. They're the same. Okay, I would say 90% they're the same. All right, and in IB we are going to talk about something in more detail. Okay, yeah, about business cycle. Okay, right. So here very quickly, let's see if you still remember. Yeah, what are the relationships when you see there is an economy? Okay, they have their own business cycle. When it's fluctuating, what will happen to all these government objectives? Okay, so let's start with the very first one. When there is an expansion here, so you see here, before we do that, let's take a look of the axis again. So here, the y-axis, we are talking about the real GDP, okay? The GDP, not the growth, okay? Right? So yeah, so you can actually link that into this concept. So you can see when it is in the peak. So when it goes down, okay, the GDP is actually falling. Okay, so this is what we are trying to describe it. Okay, so when it's falling, the GDP is falling as well. So that's why we will have a negative GDP growth when it is falling. Okay, yeah, got it. Right. So this is what how we are trying to see it. So here, real GDP and the x-axis, the time. Okay, so you see it's along the timeline. Okay, yeah. All right. So when we are having expansion, very quickly, what will happen to economic growth? Very easy. What will happen to economic growth when we see expansion here? So expansion when GDP is growing, you see, yeah, increase. But hey, here's the question. What is the most essential element which causes economic growth? When something increases, then you will see economic growth. Output increase. Well, but I would say Andrew is more correct. Demand, but still, there's still one more word before aggregate demand. Yes, that's the word. Okay, so aggregate demand, right? Every time when we are in macroeconomics, when you are writing your answers, do not just write demand, because you will not getting any marks from that. Okay, because it's not just demand. Demand is only applicable in microeconomics when we talk about the demand in a market, a demand in a person. Okay, yeah, individuals. All right, but here, macroeconomics, we always have to emphasize the term aggregate, or you can say total. Okay, total, aggregate, they're the same. All right, aggregate demand. So you can see, because of aggregate demand uh, is increasing, we have economic growth. Okay, so you can actually make an implication when this curve here is moving upwards. Okay, it means that the aggregate demand is increasing as well. Okay, so in other words, when it is going down, the aggregate demand is actually going down. Okay, yeah, clear, right. And you can see this cycle here, right? Because of that logic over here in economic growth, that's why we believe that Okay, the fluctuation that you are seeing in this business cycle is mainly caused by the change of aggregate demand. Okay, yeah, and well, of course, you can see different other objectives here, but I would say they are all like like ripple effects. Okay, so when something happened to economic growth, then from there it would change the level of unemployment, it would change the level of price level, it would change the level of balance of payments. Okay, right? Yeah, so that's why aggregate demand is the main reason why you have this fluctuation over here. Okay, yeah, so economic growth, well, let me try to finish the table here because I haven't put the answer over here. Wait a second. um, okay, yeah. All right, so here I'll put a positive sign. All right, over here. What about unemployment rate? Come on, guys. Unemployment rate, yeah, decreases, right? Because now people, they are better off, they have more income. So yes, unemployment rate, yeah, people, they spend more. So the producers, they have to produce more. Okay, and they need more resources, they need more labor, and that's why they need to hire more workers. Okay, so here unemployment rate, I will put a minus sign over here. And what about price level? Plus, plus, plus. But why the price level will go up? Yeah, you are correct. But can you quickly explain why the price level will increase as well? Inflation, yes. More specifically, can you make it more specifically? Inflation, that's the right direction. What kind of inflation will make something like this happen? Will make price level to go up? What are the two main inflations we have learned so far? Demand pull inflation, and also one more. Is one more? One more? What is it? What is the other one? Cost push. Right, exactly. Okay, so you can see, imagine, yeah, just imagine a supply demand curve in your head, and then you will see when demand is going up, then you will see the price will be pushed up as well. Okay, yeah, well, or you can say just like that, literally, the price will be pulled up. Okay, because of the increase in demand, and it's at the same time, when the demand is getting higher, well, you may have to hire more people to help you for the production. So and you see when the unemployment is getting lower, so you are going to expect it's harder to recruit workers. Okay, and at the end, you need to increase the wages in order to attract the workers to work for you for the increasing output. Okay, and therefore you have cost push inflation as well. Okay, I hope you still remember, yeah, the concepts, the macro concepts, because yeah, you can see we are going to use everything that you have learned so far in macroeconomics, okay, in here, right? Okay, yeah, right. So yes, so here this is the case. And what about this? So this is, I would say, this is the most difficult one, yeah, to realize. So what will happen to the balance of payments if that's the case? If you have an expansion, what will happen to the balance of payment? If you think about exports and imports, do you think we would have a so minus? Minus. Do you mean minus by the exports will be lower? Yeah, lower export, right? Andric is, yeah, Andric is correct. Yeah, but Andric, can you quickly explain like why export is going to be decreased? Stronger currency. Um, well, I will. Well, here. Okay, Andrew. Very soon when we go to international economics, we will go through the currency again, the exchange rate again, in much more detail. So right here, uh, I would say it might not be true. Okay, it might not be because of stronger currency. Okay, so you see here when we talk about inflation and exchange rate, okay, so many students they have confusion about those two concepts because they look so similar. Okay, but this is one very easy area people will get confused. Okay, this is one of them. And well, I'm not gonna talk too much right now in this area because we will go through inflation and exchange rate in the later chapters very soon. So, but I'll tell you here, I would say, okay, you are correct, but not because of there is a stronger currency here. Okay, yeah. Demand within the economy increase hints less good could be exported. So here, well, I'm going to explain it very soon, okay? Because we are going to do that particular revision very soon. So here, I'll just hold it. So now, for now, you just have to know right now, okay? Yep, right. Okay, yeah. Thank you for the answers over here. So Rafael, can imports be considered luxury goods since yeah. It can be considered that as well. Okay. But we are going to hold on this part. But right now, you just have to know. Okay, when there is a higher price level. Okay, when there's a higher price level, the balance of payment will be worse off. Okay, so you will see maybe there is a balance of payment deficit. Okay, going on. Right, but we are going to explain very soon, so don't worry about this. All right, okay, very soon, very soon. So, yeah, okay. So here, when it is going to the peak, okay. So are we still going to see economic growth there if we are in the peak? So here, okay, why not? Yeah, it is at highest. Okay, so right. So I would say is at the maximum level, right? So right here. So economic growth, yeah. Okay, it will be remain constant. Okay. But what about unemployment? Unemployment. What kind of unemployment level would you see in the peak? So if you follow this object, if you follow this logic, okay, yeah, the lowest. Okay, so let's put lowest here. Yeah, because you can see from the logic here, when the expansion is going on, okay, the unemployment level will be decreasing. Okay, so we are going to expect when we are reaching the peak, the unemployment level should be at the lowest point. Okay, yeah, okay. So what about the price level? What will happen to the price level if we are in a peak situation? Anyone? 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 Hello? Highest. Yep, highest. Right? So based on the logic here, so when we have a higher, so when the price level is increasing during expansion, then in peak we are going to expect the price level is going to in the highest position. Okay, right? So here I would say, yeah, so very simply, we just put a minus sign over here. So you are going to expect the balance of payment will be pretty bad, okay, when the price level is getting too high. Okay, when the price level is getting too high. All right. Okay, right. So what about this? Very quickly. So if that is the case of expansion and peak, then what will happen when it is experiencing contraction over here? So about economic growth, what will happen? Yeah, minus. Okay, so the same logic here. So if you have experienced contraction, so economic growth will go down because your aggregate demand now is getting lower and lower, so it's decreasing. The AD is decreasing. So because of that, so the unemployment rate, yeah, of course, is going to go up, right? Because now we don't need, or we don't have so many aggregate demand, so they don't need so many workers for the production. So they will, fire those workers. Okay, so unemployment rate will go up. Okay, and the price level will just go to the opposite direction. So you will see, okay, the price level will be going down. Yeah, right. And yeah, so this for the balance of payment is just the opposite direction, right? So here, very quickly, let me finish the rest of it. Okay, so when we are in the bottom, okay, of the business cycle, then of course, economic growth, yeah, will be at the minimum point, and unemployment rate, yeah, will be the highest. Okay, it's just the opposite. So here will be the lowest, and I would say the balance of payment will be, or in general, okay, so here in general will be good. Okay, you might see some surplus over there. Okay, all right. So and we will go back to this very soon. Okay, don't worry about this. Okay, yeah, we'll go back to this very soon. It's not an easy topic, so yeah, don't worry about this. Okay, all right, okay. But here I have a question for you. Where is recession in this business cycle? Where is it? Where is recession? What is the definition of recession? Trough, contraction, and trough. Yep. Yeah, you guys have the right idea. So, Kirsty, after contraction, but after how long? Do you guys still remember? 2 quarters or 6 months? Yes. Okay, that's it. That's the answer. Okay, that's the most correct answer. Okay, so yeah, with that being said, so look at this. Oh, wait. Yep. So here, let's go back to recession. So take a look at this news. Okay. Yeah, it's not a very old news. Okay, look at this. It's just a few months ago. Okay. So from RTHK, and the government they announced. Okay, Hong Kong is actually now in technical recession because in the third quarter, in 2019, the GDP, okay, you know, is decreased by 3.2%. Okay, so this is what we are talking about, the negative economic growth, the percentage. Okay, yeah, it is dropped by 3.2%. Okay, so yeah, so this is the third quarter. Okay, and here, take a look at this, right? And the economy has already contracted by 0.5% in the second quarter. Okay, so yeah, so you can see there is a continuous drop, okay, in 2 quarters already. Okay, yeah, so take a look at this, right? 2 successive quarters of negative growth, meeting the technical definition of a recession. Okay, so yes, so that's recession. So when we go back to the business cycle here, when it's going down, yeah, you will see contraction. Okay, but sometimes the contraction may not last long. Sometimes, let's say, so after the peak here, the contraction might stop here, and then it will go back up. Okay, so if that's the case, then it will be not long enough to reach that 2 quarters, successive contraction. Okay, yeah, but in this case, well, let's say over here, yeah, I would say somewhere around here, yeah, you may reach the requirement of approaching recession. Okay, yeah. So you see, inside the contraction, you will see somewhere. Okay, yeah, there will be recession. Okay, right. And that's the case after 2 quarters, a successive 2 quarters of negative growth. Then you will see. Then you can technically call that recession. Okay, so you can take a look of this statistics here. Yeah, I just extracted this from the Department of Census and Statistics. They have so many useful information, economic data, demographic data, and so many other useful data you can find from this department. So make good use of the data here you can find. Okay, so see, take a look at this. So this is actually the economic growth percentage from 2010 to 2019. Okay, so take a look at this. See, from 2010 to 2018, do we find any recession along the way? No, right. Okay, so yeah, you can see. So this is 10 years. Okay, 10 years, right? In 10 years, this is the first time we are experiencing recession. Okay, so this is what they would say. Okay, this is what the government would say. This is what the economists would say. Because yeah, this is how we can see if an economy is experiencing a recession or not. Okay, of course there are so many reasons behind why we are having recession right now. Okay, it could be because of the protests and also the trade war and the financial crisis, the international financial crisis. Yeah, so many different factors. Okay, it's not just because of one particular factor which makes it happen. Okay, right, all right. So yeah, so that's recession. Okay, right. So okay, let's talk about something about business cycle in detail. Okay, so here this is going to be the new concept. Well, yes, or you could say a more detailed concept that you are going to learn about business cycle. So listen to this. Okay, so when you take a look of the business cycle, you will see a very upward sloping linear curve. Okay, yeah. So this is what we call, if you still remember, we call that a long-term growth trend. Okay, because when you think about this, when you think about in a country, most of the countries, I would say, eventually the economy will grow. Okay, give it time. Give it time. The economy will grow. Okay, yeah. So this is the long-term trend. So in the long term, this is how the economy is going to go up. Okay, yep. So sometimes we call that a potential GDP. A potential GDP. So what does that mean, potential GDP? So this is the important part. Okay, because this part here is going to connect to the next chapter somehow. Okay, so here try to make this clear. Okay, make this concept clear in here. All right, so this is the long-term growth trend. Okay, yeah, in the long run, if you give it so many years, it will grow up. Okay, the economy will grow up, and we call that potential GDP. So potential GDP is actually, we have some definition for the potential GDP. So potential GDP or potential output, yeah, they're the same. Output, income or expenditure, right? GDP. Okay, when you are reaching any point along this line, okay, we would say you are reaching a very optimal level of output. Okay, you are reaching a very stable level of output. So in any point along this line, you will see a full employment level of output. Okay, because we assume here, this is in the long term. This is the most optimal level of output an economy should go. Okay, in the long run, right? So this is what we call a potential output. This is the most stable growth in one particular economy. Okay, so if you are hitting any point along this line, you will see a very nice full employment level of output. Okay, and at the same time, unemployment. If you are in full employment level, the unemployment is equal to the natural rate of unemployment. What does it mean? Do you still remember that? So full employment. Full employment, does it mean everyone in the society gets a job? Well, yeah, we don't really have a very specific figure. Okay, we don't really have a specific figure like 98%, but very close to 100%. But still, okay. So if here the case of full employment is 98%, where like what is 2% doing? But now we're talking about full employment. Yeah, but when you're talking about full employment, okay, natural unemployment. So what does it mean? So what does it mean? Natural unemployment, right? So let's say you call 98% as full employment, okay, but it's not full employment when you take a look at the figure. Uh, yes, okay, right. Uh, Cyclical. Well, cyclical it might not be. Okay, because where if you go back to your GCSE material, yeah, cyclical is something actually in the opposite direction. Okay, yeah, but frictional, seasonal, yeah, frictional, seasonal, right? They are the main reason why, even though you are in the full employment level, you still have like 2 or 3% people left out. Okay, because those people they are still in the transition between jobs. Okay, yeah, they're still waiting. For the new job. They're just graduating from university and they need to find jobs, but very soon they are going to find one. Okay, and that's why you will see some what we call a natural rate of unemployment. Okay, they are so natural. Okay, it happens no matter what. Okay, yeah, if you put it this way, right? Every year we have new graduates. Every year people they are changing from one job to another. Okay, so that's why you can see that is what we call a natural rate of unemployment. Okay, yeah. And we will talk about the natural rate of unemployment and also natural unemployment in detail very soon when it comes to the part of unemployment again, okay, in macroeconomics. So don't worry about this, okay? But right now, if you use what you have learned from a GCSE, then it's more than enough for you to understand the concepts here. Okay, yeah. So sometimes it might be a good idea to go back to the contents of GCSE, that the things that you have learned, right? It will give you a much clear idea like why this is like this, why that is the case. Okay, yeah, right. So here, okay, so now we get it. Okay, any point along this line, you will reach potential GDP, which we will see a full employment level of output. Okay, yeah. But the thing is, economy doesn't work like this. Okay, our economy doesn't go along this line. Our economy, there are so many things happening every day. There are so many different incidents happening every day, and that's why it is almost impossible to go along this potential output trend. Okay, and that's why you will see another curve here. Okay, so this is actually the real output or real GDP your economy actually achieved. Okay, right? So this is the potential one, and that is the path you are really going. Okay, so imagine there are two freeways. Okay, yeah. So think about this: you are going to the same destination. Okay, but which one would you prefer to use if you are a casual driver? Of course, it's going to be the straight line. Okay, you are not playing like roller coaster or things like that. Okay, you don't want that to have so much fluctuation going on along the way. You want to have a very smooth, okay, route that you can go along the line. Okay, so yeah, but in reality, this is where you are going. Okay, this curve here, this business cycle here. Okay, you can see all kinds of fluctuations over here. All right, yeah, and well, you can see once again, right? See the dots here? Okay, those are the dots when you are using this path. Okay, when your economy is going from this path, these are the points when you reach full employment, or you could say when you reach potential output. Okay, yeah, because you can see any point along this potential output, you are going to see full employment. Okay, so you can see all the dots here, right? Along the way, sometimes you will go back to your potential output. Sometimes you, a bit off the track. Okay, yeah, right. And this is what we are going to call it. So you can see if you are not reaching the potential output along the way, okay, you are going to see some gaps. Okay, so these are the gaps, right? So here, the distance between your potential output and the actual output that you are producing. Okay, so this is the gap here, and this is the gap here. All right, so usually we will call, but before that, why? So here, in this case, what could be the reasons why the economy cannot reach the potential output, but instead they are in a lower output than the potential, uh, you know, output that we see in the long run. So what could be the reasons? What could be the reasons why we have, you know, a gap over here? Yeah, what makes the fluctuations? There is cyclical unemployment, but what makes a cyclical unemployment? What causes cyclical unemployment? Yeah, the decrease in so there is insufficient of aggregate demand. Okay, and you will see cyclical unemployment, right? So you can see we talk about the fluctuation of business cycle, and we talk about why you have the fluctuations, and they are because of the change in aggregate demand. Okay, yeah. So because every day something will happen, and that thing will affect aggregate demand. Okay, so you say here why it is going down. Maybe the government somehow they are using contractionary policies, and that's why. See now, it is not going from the potential growth trend. It is going down a little bit. Okay, because of the things happening every day. Well, yeah, and when something happened to the AD, when the AD is decreasing, you okay, the path that you are going would go down as well. Okay, so you are not really following the potential trend, okay, completely. Okay, right? So that's why you will see some gaps here. Okay, but the main reason why you will see gaps, okay, along the way is because the change in AD. Okay, so there are so many factors why AD will change. Okay, and we are going to talk about it very soon. Okay, but right now you just have to know the gaps here, they are caused by the change in aggregate demand. Okay, right? And you see, we have some terms for those gaps. See here, when the potential output is higher than the actual output that you are producing in the economy, we will call that deflationary gap. Okay, or sometimes you will see recessionary gap. Okay, right? Recessionary gap or deflationary gap. Okay, so this area here, well, you can actually shade this area here. Okay, shade this area here. This area here, this is what we call a deflationary gap. Okay, because you can see, in this area, okay, the potential output is always higher than the actual output that you are producing in the economy. Okay, so this area here is deflationary gap. Okay, yeah, right. But sometimes you will see another gap. Yeah, you see that the actual output is actually higher than the potential output that we are, having along the way. So we call that inflationary gap. Okay, so this area So if you shade this area, okay, this is what we call inflationary gap. Okay, yeah, let's try to shade this area when you are preparing for your notes. So this area here we call the inflationary gap. Okay, so what makes an inflationary gap? So we just talk about, because the change of aggregate demand, and that's why a deflationary gap might happen. But sometimes when the aggregate demand is increased suddenly, you are going to experience an inflationary gap as well, right? So let's say when people they are working overtime, when people they try to they do not sleep, they work all day, okay, because of some sort of reasons, because because of some preferences of some goods and services, and that's why people they in the very short run they just work their butt off, okay. But you can see we call this potential output the optimal output in the economy. Okay, and when the people they don't sleep, when the people they OT, when the people they work overtime, okay, to achieve higher output, in this situation, it's not really that sustainable. It's not really that good, or what you can say optimal. Okay, and that's why very soon, it will go back down. Okay, so that's why once again, along this long-term growth trend, we would call that potential GDP. And when we talk about potential GDP, we talk about this is the optimal level, okay, of the economy when it is growing. So this is the optimal growth. Okay, yeah. So this is the optimal growth of an economy. If you are off track, okay, of this line here, then there might be some problems. Okay, yeah. So you can see the gaps here. Okay, you can see the problems from these gaps. Okay, yeah. Okay, right. And so this part here, the deflationary gap and inflationary gap, we are going to come back to these gaps once again in the next chapter. Okay, but right now you just have to know. So this is how you can find deflationary gaps and inflationary gap in a business cycle. Okay, right. So if you're the government and if you see this, and you see if the economy is of the government, they show you this business cycle, uh, just like this. So how do you make it better? So if you are trying to make it better, okay, what kind of shape in the business cycle should look like? If you're trying to make it better, what kind of shape of the business cycle should look like? So this is where you are actually going, and you are trying to make it better. So how do you make it better? A thick line? So can you explain it like in more detail? So this is the optimum growth, okay? And this is where we are going. And we are trying to, if you are the government, we are trying to make it better along the optimal growth. Okay, so how do we make it happen? What we should do along this actual output that we are going? How we can achieve it? Okay, fiscal policies, and so but here, Ryan, you have the right idea. Okay, so if in terms of the shape of the curve, we would like to, okay, make a smaller peak or smaller trough. Okay, well, but that is not very specific. We would say, but I think you have the right idea. We would say, see here, this is how we can make it better. Okay, because this one here, once again, this is the optimal growth. Yeah, the straight line. Okay, and you see this one here is where we're actually going. Okay, as long as we are able to decrease or to reduce the fluctuation along the way. Yeah, if we are trying to push down the inflationary gap, yeah, a little bit more, and we are trying to push up the deflationary gap, okay, a little bit more, then we are getting closer, okay, to what the potential output looks like, okay, the potential growth looks like, okay, yeah. So this is what we can do, okay. So yeah, so here, if we can do this, if we can use, like, let's say different policies, okay, like fiscal policies also, okay, and then we are able, well, maybe, yeah, maybe or maybe not, we are able to reduce the intensity of economic fluctuation, okay, or we can call, yeah, because you see here, this straight line, we call that a long-term growth trend, okay. So the economists, they believe this is the long-term growth trend, and this is sometimes they call that, the actual GDP, the line, they call that a short-term fluctuation. Okay, so as long as we are able to reduce the intensity of the actual fluctuation, then we will be able to achieve two macroeconomic objectives. Which are the two macroeconomics objectives we can achieve by this? So if we are able to reduce the inflationary gap, what can we achieve? Think about, the introductory exercise we just did. Stable prices. Okay. Yeah, stable prices. Yeah, control inflation and unemployment. Yes, right. Unemployment. Yeah, stable prices. Exactly. Okay. So if we are able to reduce the inflationary gap, well, let's go back to here. Yeah, if we are able to decrease the inflationary gap, then we are able to reduce the inflation. Okay, and at the same time, if we are able to reduce the deflationary gap, yeah, because we know that the lower it gets, the higher the unemployment level that you will see. So if we're able to reduce this, you will be able to get a better unemployment rate. Okay, yeah, because at the end, both curves are going to the same direction. So why not getting closer to this line? Okay, yeah, at the end they are going to the same destination, but this one here, you are going to cause a lot of troubles to your economy. Yeah, when you have a fluctuation like this, when you have a fluctuation like that, okay, when you have the deflationary gap and when you have the inflationary gap along the way. Okay, so we are trying to reduce the fluctuation. Yeah, so if we are able to do that, if we are able to reduce the inflationary gap, lower inflation, of course, right? And if we are able to reduce the deflationary gap, yeah, lower unemployment. Okay, so along the way, if we are able to do that, yeah, you are going to achieve the same result without causing so much more trouble to your people in your country. Okay, so yeah, here you can see price stability and full employment. Okay, so these are, you know the government objectives that, like, all the government is trying to achieve. Okay, but we still have one more left. Okay, one major objective that we want to achieve. What is that? So now, if we do that, we can achieve price stability, or and we can achieve full employment. So there's one major objective we would like to achieve. Yeah, economic growth. So how do you make economic growth better? By changing the business cycle. So how do you make it happen? How do you make it happen in increase potential output? That is good. But in what way? That is good. Yeah, that you have the right idea. So we are trying to change the potential output, this line here, this long run trend here. But how do we change it to achieve better results? So if you're drawing a better potential output, how do you draw it? Anyone? steeper slope. Yeah, exactly. That's how you get it. Okay. Yeah. So when you take a look at this, right? So if you are able to do that, if you are able to make your potential output more steep, it means that the economic growth will be faster along the way. Okay. Yeah. So people, they will be enjoying more along the way. Okay. So you can see here, by reducing the fluctuation of the actual output, then you will be able to achieve price stability and full employment. Okay. And if you are able to increase the steepness of the potential output along the way, then you'll be able to achieve more economic growth. Okay. So at the end, 1, 2, 3. Okay. These are the three major objectives that we are trying to get. Okay. For the economy. All right. Yeah. But you know, in the reality, it is so difficult when you are getting one area, one objective, then you have to give up some other objectives. Okay, but this is the scenario. This is the rationale. We are trying to do that. We are trying to do both of them in order to achieve a better economy. Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, any questions? So this is business cycle. Okay, and we are going to use the business cycle to explain aggregate demand and supply in the next chapter. Okay, yeah. So you are going to hear the term deflation gap, deflationary gaps, and inflationary gaps once again. Okay, in the next chapter. So yeah, you are going to find some connection between the business cycle and the aggregate demand and supply curve very soon. Okay, so this is all for this chapter. Okay, yep, and yeah. So we still have 5 minutes, so I'm going to give you some homework, of course. Yeah. And if you look at this, so I'm going to upload this very soon. So this is your homework. Okay. So you see, I'm going to upload a PowerPoint. Okay, to you, right, on Google Classroom. So this homework is very simple. Okay. You have scenarios from A to Z. Okay, which is, you know, in the next page. Okay, so you have so many different scenarios. Okay, yeah, and what you have to do, you just have to put, okay, the corresponding cases into the appropriate stages in a business cycle. Okay, yeah, so it's a very simple task. Okay, it's just matching. Okay, it's just matching, right? So yeah, so when you're doing it, you need to think about this. Okay, so let's say here L, when you see rising lipstick sales, so what makes it happen? So you need to think more. Okay, what makes it happen, and then you'll be able to put that L into somewhere along your business cycle. Okay, so yeah, so this is the homework. Okay, so this is the homework. Yeah, so very quick homework, right? You're trying to go through all the scenarios here, and then you put the boxes, right? You just have to drag the boxes, yeah, and then put it somewhere, okay, along the business cycle. Yeah, that's all. Okay, yeah. So this is one homework. Okay, and yeah, this should be a very quick homework. Okay, and well, I'm gonna give you one more homework. Okay, yeah. So here, take a look at this. So if you go to the slides, you will see there's exercise 1. Okay, I just want you to finish this question for exercise 1. Okay, yeah. So yeah, here I have an answer already. Okay, you can do your question by referring to the answer, because the answer will not give you much. Okay, yeah, but if you don't want to refer to it, yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay, yeah, you can use it or you can not use it. Okay, yeah, so finish exercise 1. All right, so and finally, okay, you will see here after this slide, there is a YouTube video. Okay, yeah. So I would say you must watch this video before the next lesson. Okay, yeah. This video here is, I would say, is quite important if you want to understand the next lesson, because next lesson, the next chapter is going to be kind of tricky. Okay, yeah. You need to know something about different economic schools of thoughts before you do that. Okay, yeah. It may help you, it may not help you, but I would say it's better to know more about different schools of thoughts in economics before you go to the next chapter. Okay, yeah. So please watch this video before you go to the next lesson. Okay, yeah. And I would say that's all for today. Okay, so any questions, any concerns? No, no. All right. So when is the homework due? I would say how about next week on Friday? Next week on Friday. How about that? Yeah, good. So yeah. So one matching homework and one 10-mark question. Okay, and try to finish the video before the next lesson on Thursday. Okay, yeah. So 3 things. Okay, yeah. So if that's the case, then we are done. All right, we are done for today. Okay. So yeah. So guys, you can go now. Okay. Bye bye.